Lions just recovered a fumble.
Bits of wisdom.
It's Harry Houdini, I'm pretty sure.
That's when it kind of becomes Home Improvement After Dark.
I guess that leaves us at the question of the week.
Very good. I don't know if you noticed, Jordan, but a really cool aerial shot of the table. Reasonably funny.
User review.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Home and podcast time.
That's right. A company that would have no problem hugging Binford Tools is proud to present a home improvement podcast. My name is Adam, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jordan. Jordan, how are you?
I'm still sick. This is, we're chronicling my cold of 2017 is what we're doing. Now I'm towards the end where it's just a lot of mucus, so at least that's better than the sore throat. But
glad to have that information out there for our listeners.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's happy they heard about how I'm doing. But, you know, I'm glad to be spending it with you even though I'm sick this Friday morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's been good. You before we started recording, you noted you had to go and spit. You had to go take a spit break. So I hope that's the only time that happens.
You know, our fans often ask about like a peek behind the curtain, and this is exactly what they're hoping for.
You must be getting messages that I don't get because I don't note that our fans ask much of anything. But you know, maybe they send it to the Gmail account that I don't check. So.
It's true. They don't ask much, but we promise a lot. One thing we promised last week was an update on Box City. Right?
We did promise that, yeah. And after just people just kind of bugging us all week, like, what's this Box City about? When are you going to talk about Box City? Just knocking at our door, just like Home Improvement in the last episode where the neighbors are busting down the door to tell Tim about how his lights are too bright. People have been busting down our door to talk about Box City. So, Jordan, what is Box City? What was Box City? What do we have to say about it?
Yeah, I wonder if they still do it. But in 5th grade...
I kind of doubt it, because... You keep going, but it's a tremendous waste of time. I mean,
no, it taught me a lot about stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 5th grade, we all got refrigerator boxes. I'm not sure even how that happened. Like, where would I go to get a refrigerator box right now? Would they give me a refrigerator box?
I got mine was I think what would happen would be a group of kids would get the refrigerator boxes, or they would be given the refrigerator boxes, and then the next group of kids would like pick out their boxes, because I picked out somebody else's box from another classroom, and then they just gave me that one, and then I was supposed to repaint it, but the teacher ended up repainting it for me.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah,
that's
it was
nice. That's nice that they did that for you.
Yeah.
So we in your classroom, just imagine these tiny little streets lined with refrigerator boxes that have cut out windows and decorated and storefronts.
You put a refrigerator box around your desk, essentially, and it's your house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You talked about how you slept outside a couple times or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is similar, but inside.
Yeah, it's supposed to simulate like what an actual town is like, so everyone's given a job and a function, and I think... There are some elected officials.
There's an election for like a president and vice president, or mayor, vice mayor. I don't know.
Mayor and I think vice mayor. And then the mayor decides what functions most of the people in Box City have. And
is that how that worked for you?
Yeah.
I thought for mine, I think there was like there was like 4 or 5 positions where they selected, like a financial official, so the banker and a couple other things. But then everyone else had to come up with like a job, like what would they do to provide value for Box City?
Here's the thing. As we noted, I was the mayor of Box City for my class. I won the election.
Yes.
Pretty much.
I lost my election.
It was in a landslide, as far as I could tell. I beat out Adam Dutton. And I don't know
a battle of the Adams.
Yeah, I don't think that didn't come up a time or two. And I just remember being given what I felt like then and what I feel like now was too much power for an 11-year-old. I remember like selecting who was the treasurer and who was like the chief of the fire department and all these jobs, and I was just like choosing all my friends. Like
it was cronyism.
I gave friend of the podcast, Kyle Mann's, a good job. I remember giving my other pal, Greg McClarty, the job that he wanted. I don't know why the teachers didn't maybe step in a little bit more, but I was running wild. It was
like the early 1900s, late 1800s of America, basically.
Well, it must have, it was very, very strange. And I just kind of there was a vice mayor as well. And I think that might have been a girl by the name of Jessica Caswell who moved away shortly thereafter. But her and I were on good terms. But
You better be.
I just remember kind of just having too much power and thinking, I'm not ready for this. This is too much.
You didn't know what you got yourself into when
I had
you
the
ran
best
for mayor.
I had the best box. I made the most money. I made all the decisions. It's a wonder I didn't want to get into actual politics, or it's a wonder I'm not actually interested in politics. Well, I'm not interested, but not something I spend a lot of time talking about in real life. But my experience in Box City was just fantastic. I had the key to the city painted right on my my box, and I was right up there in the front, and I was just peacocking around. I would like to think that I handled it with a lot of class and grace, but I think I maybe got a little arrogant. But it was hard not to. You handed the keys to the kingdom, essentially.
Yeah, my experience was a little bit different, I guess. I was
because you lost the election.
I was tore down by Box City. Let's say that.
Who beat you?
I ran for mayor, I guess it was. I think I lost to Allison Lechner, maybe?
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Now, she bestowed upon me the banker or treasurer role. I was under the impression that that's all I had to do was manage money for the whole town for the rest of the Box City experience, but I was told by my teacher that I actually had to have a job too, which I don't think actual bankers deal with this, where they have like two.
Well, banker, you don't go into banking and then moonlight as like a bagger at a grocery store.
Yeah, but so I teamed up. I kind of became a partner in a rental business where Kyle Knightsky and I rented out our Game Boy games to other city dwellers.
I recall someone selling pet rocks and that doing quite well.
The Game Boy games worked pretty well.
That is a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and we would cut holes. We would make windows into each other's houses, whoever we were next to, so we could pass notes and such. So
I wish that Box City was something I could try in my college classes, because it seems like a really easy month for a teacher. All you got to really do is you put in the groundwork and you set up these boxes and you make sure everybody has jobs, and then they just kind of do whatever all day. I don't remember doing any work in addition to Box City. I think Box City was our work.
I just counted all of my money like Uncle Pennybags, basically.
Yeah, and that passion for banking would follow you years later into our high school games of Monopoly, where you'd put on that hat and play the banker. So.
And make sure nobody cheated.
Well, sure, yeah. Cheating was rampant in those days. But Box City, I don't know. I wonder if they still do it. I had just the time of my life, though.
I really liked it. Even though I lost, I liked it.
Why do you think you lost? Where do you think you fell short in your campaign?
I think people just weren't ready for such a data-driven, genius like me to be up there. They just wanted somebody who just had more of a connection with the people, and I guess I didn't have it.
See, I think I won because I had done an Elvis impersonation at a talent show in 5th grade, maybe a month or so before, and I think I was still riding the wave that came from that. So I think that kind of helped me get elected. So.
That probably helped. I would say I actually lost because I didn't prepare at all, and Allison came. I think we did speeches. Do you remember that? We did you would do a speech of why you should be mayor or whatever. Or
I don't remember it, but that makes sense. I remember making a lot of signs and stuff. My sign was very humble. Vote for Dietz. He can't be beat.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, Allison really wiped the floor with me. She had actual things that she wanted to do, and I'm not sure that you could accomplish the world peace and such in Box City, but mine was much.
Well, that's politics, though. You got to overpromise, underdeliver, whereas you just didn't promise at all. So
my promises were very small and. Just not enough to win over the imagination of the populace.
Yeah, I'll always look back fondly on my Box City times at Han Intermediate with Miss Parks. So it was fun. Yeah,
So there you go. There you have it, people. Box City.
Now stop bothering us. What are we covering this week, Jordan?
We're going to go in episode 37, Bell Bottom Blues.
Yes, we are.
This one was written by Susan Estelle Jansen, who last wrote Haunting of a Taylor House. This one was our first episode aired in the year of 1993, January 6th, 1993.
Wow, 93. What a year that must have been.
It's hard to remember.
That I don't remember. Yeah, but I think a lot of things happened.
Are there any plot keywords? Did you see any? I did not.
There's not any plot keywords, so that means we're gonna have to come up with our own. I'll start. Closet.
You seem sad about having to start or doing this at all.
No,
no,
that's wrong. Dead wrong.
I'm gonna go with hugs.
Lions, Detroit Lions. Either way.
Not me.
No, not you.
I'm gonna do salute.
Ooh, I was just gonna say that.
Sorry.
Oh no, I will say 70s.
Oh, I was just gonna say something related to that.
Last
one. Sledgehammer.
Ooh, good.
Dun,
Good.
dun.
I got a little bit of trivia this week. Trivia. So one of them is not that useful. The other one is better. I will say 0 out of 1 people found both of these interesting. So, the first one. The title refers to the type of blue jeans worn by young people in the 1970s whose distinctive leg openings resemble a bell. So that's the not-interesting one.
Yeah.
Second one. This title could also be a reference to the Derek and the Dominoes song Bell Bottom Blues. I was not familiar with this song. I looked it up. Derek and the Dominoes is Eric Clapton's band. And I'm going to read you some of the lyrics here, Jordan.
Oh, good.
Bell Bottom Blues, you made me cry. I don't want to lose this feeling. And if I could choose a place to die, it would be in your arms. Do you want to see me crawl across the floor to you? Do you want to hear me beg you to take me back? I'd gladly do it because I don't want to fade away. Give me one more day, please. I don't want to fade away. In your heart, I want to stay. So just as funny as the episode, really. Just a lot of levity in those lyrics.
Yeah, they kind of parallel each other perfectly.
You could see why they would maybe choose that title.
I can't believe 0 out of 1 people found that unhelpful.
Yeah, I thought it was better than... I mean, it's better than the explaining what bell bottoms are.
Yeah.
But... All right. Any other stuff we gotta? Yeah, plot synopsis. Let's do it.
All right. No Tony, no Bernie. We got Eric Kirchner again.
So we've got. Yeah,
Eric with
not
his short
Kirchner.
and sweet. Yeah. All right. So Tim wants Jill to throw out some of her clothes, or he will remodel the closet. Brad has punched a boy in school who called him names after hugging his dad. That's succinct right there.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, he's not leaving anything out, and he's not going into too much detail. But I continue to miss Tony's just. Because there's no, with predictable results or you'll never guess what happens next, things like that.
It's also a lot harder for me to mess up 2 sentences.
It is true, yeah. With the Tony ones, there's sometimes typos as well, and it's funny watching you try to navigate those. But Tony Topola writes the plot synopsis like the cover of, a VHS tape. You'll never guess what happened. Yeah. He's by the books, and she's goes by her own rules. You'll never guess what happens when this ragtag group gets together. That's what Tony writes like. Let's get into it.
Okay. So let's open at home. Tim is in the closet, and at the same time we see another great home improvement graphic with a sock on it. It's
we open with a close-up of Tim's scrotum. I mean, those shorts are really small. They're small and they're very tight, and he's really struggling to get out of the closet. And I was thinking, man, it's not inconceivable that we could be seeing something that we're not supposed to see here. I think. I
guess I wasn't focused on that.
I don't see how you couldn't be focused on that. It's the first thing you see is just Tim in these. I guess they're boxers, but they're just very, very short, revealing shorts. And Jordan, if you're not willing to admit that, then maybe you're no better than the K&B construction boys in this episode.
We'll get into that later. Right. But I've noticed how big their bedroom is after seeing it a few times now. They have I don't know, there's 2 different areas where people can get ready. There's the giant closet, the giant bed, a bathroom that was just remodeled. It seems like a very big master bedroom to me.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just what we have noticed about the start of this episode, I guess. Tim says there's too much stuff in the closet, and Jill walks in, and he like pretends that his shirt was being suffocated and tries to revive it. Blah blah blah. He says that she has 30 hats, which she says she wears all of them, including like a Carmen Miranda fruit hat and 4 different red belts. I don't know. It's setting up the same thing. She's got too much crap in the closet. He wants it organized, or he's gonna mess with it. He's gonna do it with more.
Jill agrees that. She's gonna get rid of the stuff.
She's kind of a hoarder, a little bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, she's what Tim later in the episode calls a pack rat. But the deal is that if Jill has to get rid of some stuff, or Tim is going to renovate the closet, and Jill doesn't want Tim to renovate the closet because knowing what we know about Tim, he'll find a way to mess it up.
He sure will. And I think we should get Jill a book from the Minimalist. Maybe that would help her with some of the organization issues.
Barf.
All right, so now we're going to open, after the cold open, we're going to open on Tool Time. It's the start of the show. Tim is asking how many belts Al owns. He's going on one of his riffs or whatever after seeing Jill's closet. And Al says he owns 2 belts. I own 3 or 4. How many do you own?
Jordan, I actually just bought a new belt, so I think the number is now 5 or 6.
Whoa!
Yeah, but I only use 2 or 3 of them, so you could argue that I only have 2 or 3, and I could just as easily get rid of the other ones. But I don't know that it's like a weird kind of masculine agenda. It doesn't matter if someone has more than two belts. It's like, I don't know. I see Tim change his clothes every episode. Nobody calls him out on it. He's never worn the same shirt twice, but he's got opinions on 2 belts. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's just, Tim being Tim, picking out his own things that he has gripes about.
That's for sure. Yeah.
More importantly, this is going to be the Salute to Toolboxes week. And Tim and Al, they go over to the side where the workbench is, and they show their toolboxes. Al has a much bigger one, a big red one, and Tim has this small gray one.
Usually, they're going with the, mine's bigger than yours. But if you have a big red anything, I think you're in trouble.
You might want to go to the doctor.
I know, you should get that checked out.
I did think this was kind of funny once Al's just says why he has the bigger toolbox is because he has to be ready for Tim's needs, and he starts by pulling out like bandages and ice packs, and then it gets real good because he pulls out crutches and IV units, and
it's a good visual gag.
Yeah, I like that.
The IV unit in particular, but I think. And Al is ready to kind of pounce on Tim because Tim starts off the scene by calling him Gal Borland. Whoa, look out. The applause meter just went through the roof on that one.
Ooh, and Al he must have been planning this because...
yeah, you don't just have that stuff sitting around. At least I don't.
So he's had enough of Tim at this point.
We should do a poll. Let's poll our listeners and see if they have like IVs or crutches just laying around their house. The polls only get about 5 votes anyway, so I think I'm gonna go a little bit darker, a little bit.
You might alienate our 5 voters.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
All right, so that's kind of that scene. They move on to the next scene where Brad and Randy are walking through the yard after school. There's a little bit of dusting of snow on the ground, and Brad punched a kid, and he has a note from school. I assumed that the principal would actually call mom and dad at this point instead of just writing a note home.
If you're a principal sending a note home, you're kind of asking for some tampering to be done.
Yeah.
I don't know,
and
seems
boy,
like
we're gonna get some tampering.
An inefficient way to inform someone of something,
Yeah.
Tampering does ensue.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him pass through that kind of path in the side yard, and I never am sure exactly.
Where's the driveway? Where's the bus
which
stop?
Which part of the house is front? What's the side yard situation? Where are they coming from? Where's the park where Jennifer Sudarski watched Brad play football? I mean, I would like,
we need a map.
Big fans of Stephen King. There's like this map that shows like the map of like Derry, Maine, where it is set. There's like a big map, and it's very descriptive because the book's like 1,000 pages, and he is a good writer, so he's able to kind of flesh things out. And someone put together. I want the same kind of map of the Taylor's neighborhood.
So we're gonna have to reach out to like Susan Estelle Jansen or the show creators.
Carmen Finestra, probably,
yeah.
But I have him or her on speed dial. I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman. But I would like
it's very confusing when him or her answers.
Yeah, where Curtis comes from, I want to know where the park's at, driveway, Doc Johnson. Yeah, give me the logistics.
We've got a list going, and we need some answers.
Randy has a plan. He has
not a very good one.
It's not the most imaginative plan that a young boy could come up with, but it is it's Randy's plan. But he wants something in return. He wants Brad's Barry Sanders autographed football. But Brad coolly says, how about I just don't beat you up instead? And Randy said, works for me. And I didn't know Randy was so soft. But, what are you going to do, I guess?
He's all brains, no brawn.
I don't know if he's that smart, even if he's just coming up with this plan. It's not real imaginative, like we said, but
he needs a new computer and some Photoshop, and maybe he could pull something off better. But at this point, Jill comes home, and Tim comes inside too. I think they're all kind of inside at this point. And Tim has a sledgehammer, and he's going to go reorganize the closet, and Jill cannot believe it and tries to stop him. Tim also ordered a Super Goliath modular closet system from Furniture Barn, so he's taken lots of steps here to reorganize the closet. And Randy, as they're arguing over this, Randy thinks this is the perfect time to ask to get the signature from the parents.
Yeah, we didn't necessarily go through the plan, but that's okay because the episode really didn't either. But the plan is it's exactly what you would expect it to be. They're going to put a field trip permission slip or something on top,
and tape it.
Use a little bit of tape, and they're gonna sign it. Did you, in either of these couple of scenes, did you notice Brad's leather jacket?
It's kind of like a varsity jacket, right?
It says sports 1954.
The most generic jacket of all time.
What's the year? Because sports are not from 1954. Sports are a lot older than that. So I don't know what happened with sports in 1954, but that coat kind of commemorates that.
Just a big events in sport. I'm surprised they didn't have a Detroit-based one. You think they would have been able to pull that off?
Do you think? Well, I don't really know enough about this, but I would assume every time they use Lions, Tigers, Pistons stuff, they gotta pay, right? Or is that not how it works? I'm actually not sure. You know more about copyright and such things than I do.
We talk about copyright way too much.
We talk about it more than I think we should have to, but I know that's the nature of this medium. But do you think that there is something do they have
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's possible.
Well, that would explain the
That's
jacket.
why Disney has lawyers, I guess.
Yeah, well, don't even get me started on that. All right, so yeah, Tim and Jill. Jill's chasing Tim upstairs. He's got a sledgehammer. They're it's a tickle fight. Is that what you call it? A tickle fight? It's sexy, but it's also just family oriented, kind of.
Sure,
which is
those things
which
can
is the best way to
coexist.
be. That's what you want.
Sexy and family oriented.
Jill
Jill shows how much she has donated, and there's a little box, and it has a shoe and something else. So it's not very much, and we find out that Jill's a bit of a hoarder. Mm-hmm. She has 3 sets of clothes. She has a normal weight, a fat weight, and an I wish.
Oh yeah, Tim holds up that dress, and he says I wish, and that's fairly insulting because it's a smaller kind of, again, I don't think of this as being a sexy episode, but here I am saying sexy twice. But it's supposed to be I don't know if it's it's just supposed to be
negligee.
Negligee. And he says, this is the I wish section, and then Jill is she takes it in stride though. She's not really even mad. She's just oh, Tim, you're incorrigible.
And this is when the tickling happens, right?
Yeah, that's when the tickle fight happens. The whatever not a romper, jumper, whatever that he holds up, it's huge. It is it's a parachute. The green monster. The green monster. What else we got? We got the boys agree that it's time to strike, so they do kind of head up there, and Brad kind of hoists the form towards them, and Tim is about to sign, but Jill sort of immediately sees through it, and I wondered just how. She immediately is oh no, you're trying to trick me, which I don't know, seems like a weird kind of inclination to have, but maybe if your son's on the brink of heading to a juvenile detention center, that's something you have to be aware of. But
yeah, Brad's had a bad history the last couple months, so I'm guessing she is ready for this kind of thing, and with Randy, she's probably encountered it before.
Yeah, well, Brad punched Mickey Walker, and he's got to pay the Pied Piper.
Ooh. Randy's up there too.
Randy is up there too. He's kind of watching from the doorway, and Tim is. It's funny because he just sort of is ready to sign it. He doesn't suspect any foul play, and then Jill, of course, peels it back, and she sees that Mrs. Blackburn has sent a note home. Blackburn is such a cliche teacher name, Blackburn. I don't know. I feel like that's a Mrs. Blackburn. Have you ever? I feel like that's a name that shows or movies have used for like teachers before. It's kind of like a mean sounding name, like, oh, old Mrs. Blackburn really got me this time, that old bag. You know what I'm saying at all? Or no?
I'd like to have more examples of different teacher names that you might think are...
yeah, I was worried you were going to say that. Blackburn, Mrs. Johnson. That sounds like
they're the same. Johnson and Blackburn.
It sounds like a teacher name. Johnson, Blackburn, what's another one?
Mrs. Stern. How about that? That one actually makes sense.
Landers. I think that's from Leave It to Beaver. But I don't know. Something about Blackburn just sounds like... I can envision... She's 49 going on 70. She's got some horn-rimmed glasses. Her lipstick's kind of smeared off the corner of her mouth.
Are you sure you're not describing Grease?
Who, Frenchie? Oh, you're talking about the... Well, sometimes I wonder if we should have just done Grease cast, you know?
Yeah, well, there'd be about 3 episodes.
No, we do it minute by minute.
Oh my gosh. So anyways, Randy gets shooed out of the room after Brad is found out. Brad gets grounded for 3 days, and Brad says that he did it because Mickey was making fun of him, and it's Tim's fault, where Tim is confused. Beep, 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 back up. Which I think you mentioned that was a nice Seinfeld comparison there, that George does that.
Yes, I've maybe mentioned that before. Mm-hmm. 3 days. You know what's not a punishment that fits the crime in this situation? 3 days. Brad gets off the hook way too easy. That's why he keeps doing these things. I got to really bring the hammer down once and for all.
Well, and they, even he leaves later in the episode too, so it's not even like he's actually grounded.
What does grounding mean to you? What do you not get?
You can't leave the house for sure. No friends are coming over. Yeah. And then I guess it would depend whether you could use maybe a computer or TV or not.
The only time I ever got grounded was like my mom said I couldn't watch TV for the rest of the day, and that was pretty bad. Because
what'd you do?
I don't remember. I don't know. Probably blocked it out. It was so traumatizing.
Yeah, I'm surprised you made it to the manual.
I was young, so I wasn't reading or anything. I can tell you that much. And I didn't have a phone, so I don't know. I probably just
played
walked
some
around.
Toys.
I just walked around the yard aimlessly. But yeah, he does leave. I don't know. Yeah, you definitely can't leave. Probably can't make phone calls. I feel like that's a thing you see in 90s movies. Are no phone. And
no outside communication whatsoever.
No outside communication with. Well, Brad doesn't really. I don't know. They don't seem to have friends. Brad has JS, of course, but I don't know. They're real hot and cold. She hasn't been around in a while, so. And I don't even know how long she lasts for. So, but yeah, Brad gets a 3-day punishment, and he's mad at his dad. He just kind of storms off, right? Is that kind of how the scene ends?
Well, yeah, he did say it was Tim's fault, and Tim wants to know what he means. And basically, Brad says it's because he hugged him in front of all of his friends, and then Mickey Walker calls him a diaper baby. So this is kind of a continuation of the initiation stuff that we saw earlier in the season, where Brad is turning into a teenager and wants nothing to do with his parents and all that kind of stuff. The whole
season's it's just a tightly kind of plotted arc of Brad going from boy to man, and yeah, I'm growing weary of it, I was this age. I don't think I was he's so angsty. He's too young to be like this. He's only is he 11 or 12? How many times have I asked that on a show?
At some point you've said he's 11. I think at some point you've said he's 13. I would say he's 12 or 13. Okay,
well maybe that is the age, but I don't know. I wish Brad would. You're either a child or you're a man. But let's get past this in between stage. By the way, I'm going to be a great father.
Yeah, it's a lot to look forward to there. So outside later on, the 3 boys are wrestling, and I was not allowed to wrestle when I was younger. And also I had to. I would sneak. I don't know if your parents were like this. My mom didn't want me to watch wrestling at all on TV. It was just a bad influence. So I had to I would have my TV on WWF or whatever it was at the time, and then I would have it on the flashback channel or the return channel.
Oh, so you just click it when she walked in?
Yeah, and I had Tom and Jerry on the other channel. So
see, I was a big wrestling fan, and my dad and I went to the pay-per-views, so we were just raised in different ways, and as a result, I've grown up to be, a lot rougher and more tumble, just rough and tumble compared to you. I often settle things with my fists, whereas you kind of use your brain. So
I can't tell you how many times I've been intimidated by you over during this podcast. You just
sometimes I turn on the camera and I hold my fist up to the screen, and then you just cower.
It's very terrifying. But Brad and Randy are on the same team. They are doing a tag team on Mark, and Mark's kind of by himself. It doesn't seem very fair. But then Dad comes out, and Mark tags in Dad, and he really takes it up a notch.
Brad is kind of wrestling with his dad, and then Tim notes that, Brad, I think we're kind of hugging each other. And Brad doesn't like it. He storms off. He's feeling sensitive. And then I think the boys slowly storm off as well. There's a good bit of back and forth between Mark and Randy where Tim says, why don't you boys insult each other? And they exchange some zingers before they walk in. And again, the applause-o-meter goes up to 11. That should be my new catchphrase. The applause-o-meter goes up to 11.
We talked about catchphrases before.
Not on air. We didn't.
No, well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, the slowly storm off. They leave Tim outside. And you know what happens when Tim's outside by himself? He's not really outside by himself because
you're never
Wilson's
outside
there.
by yourself when you
That's right.
live by Wilson W. Wilson. I'd like to correct something I said earlier. I suppose, and maybe you comment on this. Slowly storming off just can't really happen. So let's just say they kind of meandered away.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's much better.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more literary sense. So.
I think so, sure.
And with that, we're going to regroup, and we'll play a clip of the Wilson scene here.
Okay, good. Looking forward to it, really.
Hi-ho, neighbor.
Hey, Wilson. What are you up to?
I'm tending my tulips, Tim.
A little late in the year for that, isn't it?
Well, I'm forcing them.
How, by squeezing their bulbs?
No, Tim. Forcing flower bulbs is making them bloom out of season by growing them indoors in pots.
You know, Wilson, Brad's going through this thing where he doesn't want me to hug him anymore.
He's finally reached that age.
It's a funny thing, he doesn't want me to touch him, but he'll still wrestle and roughhouse with me.
Well, that's because throughout history, men have been more comfortable expressing affection through combative gestures, such as the salute.
The salute?
Oh, yes, Tim. In the Middle Ages, when knights on horseback would pass by each other, they would raise the visors of their helmets to expose their face and show each other that they were friends, and that became
a salute,
the sign of friendship and respect. In the same vein, the handshake evolved when men would extend their weapon hand to show that they were unarmed.
Or to show they didn't have a little joke buzzer in there.
There you go, neighbor.
Hey.
Men's gestures of friendship and respect grow out of competition and combat.
Kind of like when football players, slap each other on the rear end.
Exactly. You see, Tim, each man should show affection in the way that he feels most comfortable.
A nicely rolled wet towel.
Well, I myself prefer a warm hug, but I suppose the slashing sting of wet terry cloth has its place.
Sure did in my high school.
Of course, only a man who is truly secure can feel free enough to hug another man. Yeah, secure enough. Oh, yeah.
Thanks for playing that clip, Jordan. And
You're welcome.
I hope everyone enjoyed it. So Wilson is he's forging tulips. Is it forcing or forging?
Forcing.
Forcing, okay.
He's not putting them in like iron ore.
Forcing them into metal, liquid metal. So he's forcing tulips to grow all year long, presumably. And, Tim talks about Brad's issues, and Wilson is happy to listen, because that's just how the show works. That's the format. Wilson notes that men, they're not always comfortable expressing themselves in conventional ways, Jordan. You and I, we hug. We're huggers, but
we're not conventional.
We're not conventional. We defy convention. But men prefer to express themselves through combative gestures. And then Wilson goes into two interesting historical examples. One of them is the salute, and the salute originated when the knights would, well, I'm not even sure if it had to be knights per se, but men were riding on horseback, and I suppose it was knights, and to show that they were friendly to their kinfolk, they would raise up their shield to make eye contact, and that's kind of where that hand gesture comes from, Jordan. And then also there is shaking of hands is just showing, shaking of hands in the ye olden times just sort of shows that you're unarmed. So every time you shake a hand with someone, just know that they are unarmed. So take solace in that. Tim kind of takes this and he says, yeah, it's like football players slapping each other on the butt. And then Wilson says, yeah, it's kind of like that, Tim. But the thesis statement here, to return to a phrase often overused in our first 10 episodes, secure men hug. Jordan, secure men hug.
It's true. And I mean, I like Wilson here. It's one of his better analyses based on, it's based more on history instead of pop psychology and stuff like that. So I like this appearance by Wilson. It's
you gotta feel good when a Wilson fence segment makes sense, because all too often, I don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and all too often lately, there's just been times where Tim storms off and we just don't get anything. So.
Yeah, and then Wilson's stuck, clamoring for a cheeseburger.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. So we're going to see what Tim does with this information now. We go on Tool Time, and it's a Stucco Demonstration, and the K&B boys are back.
The boys are back in town. Boys are back in town.
The moment we've all been waiting for.
It's as if they never left.
Oh, man. They pick up right where they left. It seems like it. So the guys are horsing around to start off the show. They're showing the affection that we saw earlier. Dwayne and Pete are, punching each other playfully, I guess.
Yeah, it's silly, but it's loving. The K&B boys, they've been on the show so many times, they have their own theme song. And perhaps that we think that is the song that they performed in a previous installment.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's that one that they did at the end of season 1, maybe.
Okay, the Ratchet Rhapsody.
Yeah, that's right.
Man, those guys wail. Yeah, they're horsing around. Tim says something that we've heard him say before. The show's not just about home improvement; it's about male improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim goes into his whole diatribe, and he says Wilson's message. He kind of it's muddled, and he says it sort of wrong. But he does get there eventually, as he's wont to do. And he says, "Boys, guys don't want a hug. You guys are macho." All the while, you have Al. Tim is going through this. He's taking his time and talking to the K&B boys about hugging, and they're not really having it. But Al also isn't having it. He's very impatient.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought for a guy that's so emotional and kind of wears his emotions on his sleeves and always hugging and crying and feeling kind of alone and willing to sort of talk about his feelings in a way that is not common for men on this show. Al didn't really have the time of day for it. And what do you think the cause is of that? Is it just for the joke or what?
I don't know. I guess it was just for the plot of the scene, because it just, to me, like you said, his character has been very sensitive, and when Tim asks how about a hug to Al, I think he would give that hug. So,
yeah, it's supposed to be the whole reason I think that they are paired together and that it works well most of the time is that it's like the yin and the yang. Tim is macho and gruff and kind of just stupid, and Al is kind of smart and sensitive, and that's sort of how he defines himself. But in this scene, he's less patient than even the K&B boys are. And yeah, I mean it doesn't. I guess it services the plot, but it's not like it builds to any funny punchline or anything.
Maybe Maureen didn't want the K&B boys on the show, and we know that he loves Maureen. So maybe he's just kind of coming to her defense here and wants to get the show over with.
What's not to love,
I don't know. But then, when Al doesn't give the hug, Rock steps up and he wants the hug. And he's hugging very weird. He quickly pats and then he realizes, a hug is a normal thing that humans do. And he lifts up Tim and
And then Al says, "Men in Europe kiss on both cheeks." And then they both look at the camera and go, "No!" No,
it's like the opera thing all over
again. Yeah, it doesn't happen, but they do end on that lame joke. Lame and vaguely, well, not vaguely, just kind of homophobic. But next scene, Tim enters. Brad's alone. He's like a gunslinger in the Wild West. He's just tucked up to the bar, munching down on some kind of a delicacy.
Orange juice?
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
That's a delicacy to some. I had some orange juice last weekend, and it tasted like a real treat. So, delicacy is it's subjective, Jordan. One man's delicacy is another man's routine. That's a T-shirt. Print it.
Uh-huh. That's also one of your another phrase that you're gonna catchphrase that you're gonna put out there.
My catchphrases this episode are stormed off slowly, and one man's delicacy is another man's routine.
Yeah, so far so good for you.
Wordy, yeah. We're gonna make a lot of money on our gift shop. All right, so can you pick this up? I don't exactly.
I'm not sure I can.
All right.
So anyways, Tim tries to talk about the hugging thing again. And Tim's remedy to this situation is to laugh at people when they're laughing at you. Which I'm not sure how effective this would be at this point in his life and in this situation, but he could look crazy. Brad could look crazy.
I feel like you always hear that. I think that's something that's very much TV dad advice, or something that even real adults tell to real kids. Like, yeah, if someone, I think we actually saw this in one of the Tim Allen books, where he notes that this was something that he did, so it must be something he believes in, but I don't know. I was teased some as a young child, and I'm pretty sure if I would have started laughing when people made fun of me, I think it would have just gotten worse. Or you look crazy. I just don't. I think that you're going for, like, the whole, like, I don't care, it doesn't bother me, see, I'm laughing too. But, I don't know that it would work out that well.
Yeah, my guess is you would just be better served to ignore it and walk away.
Walk away.
Yeah.
Just say no.
So maybe you will be a good dad.
Oh, probably, yeah. I suspect I will, yeah.
Well, anyways, they come up with a good compromise here. Instead of saying, I love you, in future instances, Tim's going to say, how about them lions? And Brad's going to say something back, and they're going to know that means I love you. So it's a good sort of solution.
Yeah, well, Brad says, Tim says, I won't hug you anymore. And then Brad says, it's not, I don't want you to say that you love me either. And Tim says, well, that's where Tim kind of comes up with the how about those lions solution. And Brad is just going to kind of nod his head in affirmation. It's a good scene. It's a pretty good scene. It's somewhat nice. Tim alone with one of the kids and kind of the heart-to-heart situations generally is pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, and the scene continues because Jill arrives with the groceries. Tim wants to show her the closet, and at this point, Brad leaves to go to the park, even though he's grounded. Tim tries his new signal, and Brad is confused at first, even though they just talked about it like 2 seconds ago. And then he gets it.
They really want us to think Brad is dumb,
Yeah, I mean...
They just talked about it. He says, how about those lions? And Brad's like, what?
He's thinking about Jennifer Zdarsky at the park or something.
He's plotting his revenge on Sean Hunter for the Halloween party debacle.
And he's going to throw a brick at his face this time.
Break his greenhouse. I'll break your greenhouse. That's the third T-shirt idea.
Oh my gosh, you are on fire right now.
So good. All right.
So they go upstairs, right?
Yeah. Also, Tim says, "What did he say? I got something you've been waiting for a long time."
That's right.
Oh yeah.
That's right. And then Jill makes a joke that he is sexually inadequate, right?
He just can't last long. It's just too short with Tim, apparently. And that was when the show, and this show kind of became Home and Podcast After Dark, as far as I was concerned. But just
not
just
Home
quickly.
Improvement After Dark.
Little spin on it. So yeah, they head upstairs. And this is a scene that usually comes in Home Improvement episodes around the 20-minute mark. And this is when Tim shows off something that he's done that has been successful. And it's a Tim Taylor clothing management system. It's remote operated.
Mm-hmm. Also, can I say this first before you go into it?
You can say anything you want, yeah.
The remote that he has made up for this system looks like something that like a Bond villain would have, where you would like press a button and the floor would fall out.
Was it really big or something? I didn't notice.
It was just like a big giant fob with 5 different buttons and the little switches that flick up and down. It just seemed like a strange remote to use in this situation.
Now you just use your smartphone.
That's right.
Technology is it's coming whether we like it or not. That's not a T-shirt. So the scene is hard to describe because it's very visual, but we'll try to stumble through it. So the closet's been expanded, and there is a voiceover narration by Tim. How he did that, I don't know, but it's very well done. This is an example of Tim doing something very well. There's potpourri scented lining in the drawers. There's music playing. He has her shoes on like a conveyor belt, kind of going in circles. Anything I'm missing? I think it's very, very nice. It's well. I guess there is a thing where there's pink and black zone where if if Jill puts her clothing in Tim's black zone, then a siren will go off. And I don't know. That's about it. I know that I know the scene ends because Jill is she's Randy, and I'm not talking about Taylor.
That's correct, and that's how it's gonna end. That scene's gonna end that way.
But she says, "I want you now."
Yeah, well, in the end, she pushes him against the wall and kisses him, and we
What
know what's
happens
going to happen
after that? Yeah, do you
They're
know?
going to be busy for like 90 seconds, it sounds like. So,
The closets are rocking. Don't come a knocking.
just wait 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just go to the bathroom and come back. You'll be fine. So upstairs later on, Jill puts on some of her old clothes.
Stop.
And this is...
Stop. Don't get into it yet. Worst scene we've covered on the show? Is this the worst scene we've ever...
It's
viewed?
up there. It's top 5 for sure.
Top, 2. It's really terrible.
And really, to this point, we haven't seen these famous bell bottoms until this scene.
It's so bad. All right. I just wanted to draw attention to how terrible this...
It's bad. So Jill has on these bell bottoms and some other old hippie garb, and she starts... Tim says basically that he thought she was going to donate it, or he was going to donate it. Mm-hmm. And Jill says, no, this is awesome. And she starts dancing like a weirdo and starts talking with 70s language, but it's not, I don't know. Like
it's she says things like far out and like
groovy, that kind of stuff.
But she sounds like she's saying it like she has like a bunch of peanut butter in her mouth or something, and she's like, I mean, she already does have somewhat of a southern accent, depending on
there's molasses in her mouth,
depending on the show. But yeah, she sounds like she's an alien that watched like an episode of I don't know, that watched like highlights of Woodstock or something, and then was sent to Earth to act like a hippie or something. But she sounds like someone that was not alive during that era, doing an impression of that era. It's very bad.
It's very bad. It's very strange. And frankly, we've spent too much time on such a short scene.
I have more to say, actually. So, what we didn't mention is that this is what these are the titular bell bottoms. So this is what the episode's named after, this scene. It doesn't come up, like it doesn't, there's not really mentioned until now.
It's like they forgot.
It's also the second time they've used blues in the title. So you gotta think the title was a real afterthought with this episode. And they're just like, oh man, we gotta somehow get bell bottoms in this.
We gotta shoe in some
Patricia,
sweet scenes.
do you do a 70s accent? What do you got? And that's not Patricia Arquette, so that's Patricia Richardson.
Oh, you got it right this time.
So Jill's talking 70s, and it's really bad. And I don't know, how does the scene end? He is chasing her or something?
Yeah, I don't know. He's just laughing, funny. Basically.
Yeah, probably because he's like, this is embarrassing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the end of the episode, except for the outtakes. And the outtakes
good outtakes. Really good.
The outtakes are basically the scene keeps going.
Yep.
She turns around and walks away, and Tim pulls out a handheld camcorder under the pillow and starts recording it, and she sees it, and for some reason she's embarrassed.
Do you think that she doesn't know that this is a TV show?
That's the only conclusion we can draw from this situation.
When he gets out that camcorder and kind of follows her around, she acts as if this is going to be recorded. The Aborigines, they think that taking a picture steals your soul. And that's something I learned in Zoolander. And I'm wondering if Jill, she has a similar feeling. But yeah, she acts like she's so embarrassed by the prospects of being filmed. But yeah, she's filmed every week. She should be embarrassed by the dialogue she gave earlier in the scene, not necessarily kind of how she looks. But good blooper. Really good closing of the episode. Just back to back terribleness. 2 great scenes. I really liked it. Unintentionally funny, but funny nonetheless. So
that's right.
Jordan, let's return to our format from the earlier days, or something we've kind of maybe left in the rearview mirror of late. But let's talk highs and lows of Bell Bottom Blues.
Okay, I'm going to say highs. There were quite a few small jokes that I liked in this episode, such as the crutches and the IV unit from earlier. Randy had some good lines when they were talking about right after Brad got busted upstairs. He did some good acting that I laughed about, and Al did some good acting, when he was trying to shoo or move the show along in that scene with the K&B boys. He
I wanted him to try to shoo the show. Hey, come on now! Get out of here! Get out of here,
show! We see him sweeping a lot, so he was just using his broom. But he has some good moments where he sneaks under our Tim's armpit and pretends it smells. And I don't know, it was just small things that I liked. I don't really understand why Brad keeps having the same issues over and over again, or why we need to cover them over and over again necessarily. But also, I did like Wilson's advice in this episode. So overall, I think it was a decent episode.
I agree with you in many of the same regards. I like the scene with Wilson a lot. I thought it was funny, and it was interesting. And like you said, when there's historical examples or something not grounded in Freud, I like it. And it was appropriate advice. It made sense, and it was used by Tim in a nice way. I'm also tired of the Brad kind of just struggling with adolescence storylines. This is the third or fourth time we've seen that this season. Although I did like the scene with Brad and Tim and the how about those lines. That was kind of a nice moment. But on the whole, I'm pretty burned out on like Brad just kind of being angsty and grouchy and stuff. I just want to see kids have fun. So that's what I want.
That's true.
What else? K&B Boys, as far as that cameo,
they didn't do a ton.
It's fine. Yeah, I kind of continue to think if you're going to bring those guys in, maybe have more for them to do.
If they have to drive all the way from, Bay City.
I hope they're getting comped for gas because, all they did today was come in and give some hugs. So, I think if you're going to use those guys, and they seem to be, wanting to use those guys, they should have them do a little bit more. But I guess I was happy to have them there. Probably the lowest low for me was just the whole thing with Al not wanting to give Tim a hug because that felt like the writers just kind of ignoring everything they've set up for
didn't make a whole ton of sense.
Season and a half. So I don't know. You got to be true to your characters. Screenwriting 101. But a funny episode, a better episode than above average, I would say.
Better than the other Blues episode, Mo Better Blues.
It's hard for me to say. Probably, I don't really remember.
That was one of our least favorite ones.
Okay.
It was.
I know that this, I guess the highest high and the lowest low was Jill doing the
dance
in the 70s talk and not knowing that she's on a TV show. That was good and bad. So bad it's good, so good it's bad. Hard to say. But above average.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is episode 37, Bell Bottom Blues. I guess if you want to reach out to us, we would love to hear from you. And you can do so at facebook.com/HomeandPodcast. We're on Twitter at HomeandPodcast. Our website is thehomeandpodcast.com. And we would love if you could donate even just $1 to us on our website or at our Patreon account. And there are some prizes, and we have some things coming in the future that might be worthwhile. So
yeah, we got some hype stuff coming your way, but it's probably not going to come for free. So throw us a bone or two, and you can get maybe some extra content. But we'll talk more about that next week. A couple exclusives.
Mm-hmm. So
I want to talk about social media, Jordan.
I wish you would.
All right, so Twitter. Some people have been reaching out to us of late. Last week's episode related to the Manhattan transfer, and a Sophie 2017 handle at Dan's Devon Girl. She said, MT, they were fab on TT. She likes the acronyms. LOL. I feel like an old man in a Verizon commercial trying to read that. MT, they were. But she liked Manhattan Transfer, so that's something. We got a message from Martino Motorsports. It's a photo from, or rather, of Richard Karn at a 1999 Sears How-To Fair in Cleveland, Ohio. He was a part of the racing team, so that was nice of them to send us that photo. That's been posted and retweeted as well. And we continue to do a dance with Sir Richard Karn. We're trying to get him on the show. He said, "Let me know Wim." I think he meant win. Maybe he's using a phone. The N was an M. We won't hold that against Richard. But if you want Richard on the show, reach out to him. I think we're getting close. He's all but agreed to do it. I mean, all but, it's maybe a stretch, but it's a waltz with Richard and us, and we'd love to get him on the show, mostly because I think that Jordan doesn't think that we can do it, and I feel as though we can. So, tweet at Richard Karn, tell him to come on the show. We'd love to talk to him. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess that leads us to the question of the week. All right, get ready for a curveball here. We are going to we're going to switch up the question of the week, and we're going to split it halvesies now, which means it's my turn to come up with a question.
It's on me. I'm lacking creativity. I can't come up with questions anymore, and I'm kind of shouldering the load.
Yeah, I'm sure. We're 36 episodes in, so you've asked me a lot of questions, and it's time for me to ask you some. So, they talked a little bit earlier. Randy coveted a Barry Sanders autographed football, and I was wondering, what is the most famous autograph that you've ever gotten?
I used to be really into sports memorabilia because my dad was. So I'm not into it now. I don't actively pursue it, but for a lot of years I did. I would say, my white whale was always a Mickey Mantle autographed baseball. I don't have one yet. I hope to get one, before I die, I suppose, is morbid. But that's something I've always wanted, but those were always too expensive. I have a Joe DiMaggio autograph photo that I bought when I was maybe 15, and it cost a bunch of money then. All the money I had basically when I was 15. So I suppose that's probably the most valuable. But over the years, I've gathered a pretty extensive, mostly baseball collection of baseball autographs. So yeah, probably the Joe DiMaggio photo though, because he's.
Did you steal money from a charity to get that picture?
I probably stole money from my parents to help me pay for it, but a lot of it was my own money, so that felt good in a way that big purchases occasionally do if you've saved up, and I had. But a lot of baseball stuff. I mean, most of it's in my parents' shed up north right now, but eventually I will get it back and kind of try to look at it again or have some of it out. But yeah, I don't know. What about you?
I will say, besides all of the sweet, Goofy signatures and Mickey and Minnie Mouse, all that kind of stuff. Actually, in the same place at Disney World when I was younger, Isaiah Thomas of the Pistons, not the Celtic guy right now.
The real Isaiah Thomas. Not this wannabe averaging 30 points a game.
This joke of a basketball player. No. Isaiah Thomas was hanging out in Space Mountain, and my mom grabbed his signature, and it is now that's laminated somewhere in my closet.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's I don't know. I've always been interested in autographs. I know people. I think some people can think they're stupid. It's just a signature, but I don't know. It's always been something that I've kind of wanted and been interested in. So yeah, I haven't thought about that in a while. I think I had I have a fair amount of autographs, balls and cards and stuff. But the problem is, you get all that stuff when you're young, and you can just kind of put it in your bedroom. But I move every year, and I don't know, I just don't, I don't, and my girlfriend certainly doesn't want a house just littered in sports memorabilia. So, like you said, your autographs in your closet, and my Joe DiMaggio things in storage somewhere. So, I don't know. It's a shame kids have to grow up,
Yeah, it's true. Now you see a lot more of the selfies with an athlete or something. I feel like so.
Yeah, I have a picture with Jermaine O'Neal.
Ooh.
Yeah, I saw him in Las Vegas. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. So with that, we are done with this episode. Next episode is going to be episode 38, Howard's End. So sounds morbid.
Yeah, I probably they'll have a scene near the end of the episode where a guy named Howard will come in for about 5 seconds, and that'll kind of justify the title, just like this one. They'll have a maintenance guy show up at the end, and they'll, "Hi, Howard," and then there's just roll credits.
It's gonna be great. Yeah. So we look forward to that. I guess you should take us out here because this is your job.
Yeah, I still do this. I'm gonna keep actively doing this. Jordan, thank you for joining me, and listeners, I guess I should say take care. Take care, Jordan, and take care, listeners.
Take care, everybody.